Hello, and we're back in this show, where as always we present you gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games. It's me, GammageFacts, and we've been very busy lately. Today we're talking about the remake of Dead Space, which is being developed by Motive, a studio from EA, and this is a big win for them right out of the gate. Rock Solid didn't really need a full remake, but they did, and now I'm convinced it's a fun experience here. It's not massively changed, but wisely changed, like a bit more exploration and secrets, refinements to the side quests, a bit more in combat and some story tweaks and cool additions, but of course it also has incredibly shiny graphics and presentation and sound, which I don't usually hit at first because graphics aren't always everything, but here it really works with immersion and changes things up. This Dead Room is an exciting playthrough or three, whether the change or the journey back is worth the full price is of course a bit subjective to you and your wallet, but I'm just glad this turned out to be a good game. Let's break it all down, and just so you know, this was recorded on PC with an RTX 2080 with high settings, and this video is as spoiler-free as possible, but I still recommend going in as clueless as possible if you've never played Dead Space before. If you're new, there are surprises like a mile a minute, so it's hard, but I'm not going to show any of the later game story, so the setup of Dead Space is at least 500 years in the future, and you're Isaac Clarke. He's an engineer with a small team that's dealing with this huge ship. It's a corporate planet cracker that allows you to harvest resources from planets in deep space, and very quickly you board the ship to see what's going on, and within 5 minutes there are monsters called necromorphs. The Dead Space series has a lot of story, but this first game keeps it pretty humble and simply, where Isaac was actually a voiceless protagonist in the original version, he speaks in this version to make it a little more in line with Dead Space 2 and 3. The actor Gunnar Wright does a really great job here. He only takes his helmet off a couple of times, but now he's actually modeled after the actor, and you get an expressive, almost eerily real-looking Isaac, and throughout the game now he's not just listening for a radio call and then going off and doing the thing. He's got a lot more agency here. He actually feels a bit like an engineer using his knowledge to get around the ship and survive, and that's great. It really works. No, he's a bit cheesy and heroic, as in everyman, but it's charming, and ultimately I think it really adds to the game. I guess some people like the quiet loneliness of a guy who doesn't talk in the original version and keeps things a bit abstract, but I don't know, it just feels a bit more like a well-rounded. The other big innovation is of course the graphics and the sound, and the game just looks insane, as you can see here on the screen. It's darker, very dark, there are hidden dark corners everywhere, and that really adds to the horror when you combine that with the fact that the game is a little bit random when enemies show up, from vents, from the ceiling, from the floor, everywhere. Even when you think you're safe, the game can be a little punishing. You're just always immersed in the game and kept on your toes because the lights are flashing, the sparks are flying, the blood is everywhere, the neon lights are shining, and it's all glorious, blasting off limbs to slow them down, but they also get their skin blown off and burned, and they decay believably. I've never seen any part of a zombie alien blown off, but you know what I mean. The lighting does a lot of the heavy lifting, as does fog and atmospheric stuff, but it's also the environment design itself. There's more detail, more textures, more trash and stuff everywhere. There's just more going on. They feel like real spaces, real areas with people working in them, not just drab gray-brown video game levels, and that makes a big difference to me. The sound design is very busy, it's great, but there's always popping metal going away, scratching, screaming, howling. But it works. I think it works specifically because it's hard to tell sometimes whether it's just background noise or the sound of an enemy jumping out of a vent somewhere, because it's not always quite distinguishable, and it's really just another thing that keeps you on your toes. I know I always say this with games like this, but this is one that makes you want to turn off the lights and put on your headphones and get completely into it. My only complaint in this area is that I don't like some of the newer weapon sounds because they don't have the same punch that they used to. They're not bad, it's just a matter of taste. I prefer the older sound of some of the basic weapons. As for the gameplay, there are significant improvements. The controls are a bit tighter, things feel a bit better, but the weapons have new alternate fire modes and different upgrade paths, such as the line launcher has some sort of alternate fire. The upgrade tree is also better this time around. There's also a security unlock system where you get higher unlock levels as you progress through the game, and it encourages you to go back a little bit, either through areas or sometimes even jump back. into the streetcar to find more goodies in previously locked rooms, trash cans and lockers and so on. New game plus much more attractive, because there are a lot of things to go back and find, and even a few more side story sections and a secret ending that mix things up here and there, especially big story beats that you might not even notice unless you've played through the original recently. They're rather unobtrusive. There are a few changes and tweaks that make the scenes and deaths a bit more compelling and less cheesy gameplay moments from the early 2000s. Everything has a bit more weight. Yes, it's still like a sci-fi horror crazy video game story, but it's a bit more sci-fi horror crazy video game story. But it's just done up a bit nicer here and there, and along with that, big set pieces and large puzzles are overhauled here and there too. Some of them just have way more weight to them and feel like a bigger deal. Others are completely improved upon gameplay mechanics wise, and a thing here and there is dropped, and it's not a bad thing. I promise I'll let you, if you're a Dead Space fan, you'll figure out exactly what's different, but there is no cause for concern here. Again, like as I said before, I think everything they changed here is smart and well thought out. New puzzles, better puzzles, and some real, legitimate side quests that fit into the flow of the game and don't feel forced. That's pretty damn good. The original game was just you pushing yourself from point to point, but now you can float around and boost and aim and shoot and stuff, more like in Dead Space, and you're in control of taking off and landing, and it's all pretty smooth when you're fighting some of these enemies in zero gravity, although very annoying enemies that you find annoying are still annoying. I can confirm that the changes are great, from the moments and fights to navigating the environments, but one thing I wish they'd have changed was the end. But one thing I wish they'd have changed a little bit is the finale, like the last main part of the game, the one with the marker, that still feels like an old video game, where it gets a little tedious because it goes on too long, and you just think, oh come on, let's get this over with, and that's just me. Personally, everything else I think is a massive improvement. It has multiple difficulty modes and a new game plus mode, and that's the kind of game where you want to jump right in, because Dead Space isn't exactly the longest game, but it can be a little bit longer with the extra exploration and stuff to do. I think I played through it in about 11 hours, but I only did about 50 hours of backtracking. I'm glad I found more in the new game plus, but that's what makes it so enticing to me as a player. And I want to reiterate that EA doesn't seem to have screwed it up. It's rock solid and challenging. I recommend playing it at some point if you've never played Dead Space 100 before. It's a good place to start if you played through the original not too long ago. I understand that the full price might be a little harder to swallow because there's just so many changes, but even if you're a die-hard fan, you're going to have fun either way when you get it, seeing the differences and the presentation and so forth. It's just a good experience. I just think this is a good way to redo something. It's rebuilt from the ground up, but it makes smart choices where you change something, where you improve something, but it makes smart choices where you change something, where you improve something, where you extend something, where you improve something. A few things could have been done harder, but you could have broken a lot more. It was a really measured approach and it's good. Yeah, rant only before you buy it. You know how that goes. Now, I'll give you some pros and some cons and a personal opinion, and now I want to hear your opinion in the comments. What is your connection with the Dead Space series? Are you looking forward to this installment? Are you a die-hard fan of the whole story and everything else and the comics and the books? Definitely let me know what you think, because I'm not an expert on this, but I love the main games. I'm looking forward to seeing if the remake continues. Who knows? Let me know what you think if you liked this video and it helped inform you a little bit. If you appreciate us, all you have to do is click the like button. We appreciate you a lot. But that's it guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.